Hello. It is the Absolute Football Podcast. It is Monday night. It's Monday night, and I'm back. And guess who's back? Back again. Guess who's back? It's Charlotte's back. Welcome back. How are you? I
It's
haven't
a
done a
dream
podcast with
team.
you for ages.
I know, it seems like forever. It was only Thursday.
It was only Thursday, and we did a recorded episode as well.
I know.
Fortunately, lots of football stuff has happened during the weekend, so we have plenty to talk to you about.
Yes.
You can, of course, join us. We are live on YouTube and Twitch, so come and join us in the chat as we're going to run down everything that happened last weekend, all the fun and excitement and everything else. But before we get into the football, Charlotte, how are you and how was your weekend?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. And Dale didn't lose, got a point.
No.
Don't get me wrong. It was gutting because they equalised in the 89th minute, but a point
close, yeah.
is a point. Yeah, so I'm feeling quite positive. How are you?
Yes, not too bad. I was keeping the tabs on the Rochdale game. Thought, oh, there's a 3-point, and I saw the 89th minute and thought, oh no, oh no. Yes, I'm very good, thank you. It was the weekend. It was busy weekend doing things, but good things. And I've had the day off as well because it's half term down here. So I went swimming today with the kids, so that was nice. So I've had no work.
Oh, nice.
Been able to watch some of the football highlights and get myself nice and prepped. So I think we've discussed that the best way to do a podcast in the evening is not to work during the day. So if I could just, work out how to keep the finances coming in the background, then I could do that every week and we'll have a better podcast. But there we go. So yeah, I think we're both very good. And the Premier League was again exciting this week. We're going to try and keep you, keep you updated with what's going on because obviously there is Liverpool Everton going on, as you can see at the bottom there that we have running through there. Currently 0-0, but we'll try and keep tabs on it every time it happens. If there is something that happens in that game, I'm sure something will happen at some point. We can tell you about it. But we're going to start with Leicester. Leicester City starting off this week against Tottenham Hotspur. And we don't often talk about Leicester on the pod unless a manager may have potentially been sacked earlier in the season, but hasn't kind of come through.
That didn't go well. No. Me and my big mouth. Again.
Brendan Rodgers, it's a matter of time, says Shaw. It's a matter of time. The man's on thin ice. He's on thin ice.
Honestly.
Not anymore.
Honestly, I must have kept that guy in a job. 100% because ever since I opened my big mouth and said he would be the first manager in the Premier League to be sacked. How many managers have been sacked since him? There's been a few.
There's been quite a few that have been sacked. And Brendan has stayed the course. To be fair to him, he's absolutely stayed the course. Yeah. Of course, we're talking about it was Leicester Tottenham at the weekend. And the Foxes hit Spurs 4-1. 4-1 from Leicester, 4-1 victory, which is the second game in a row that they've scored 4, because they've obviously scored 4 against Aston Villa the week before. We will come to Tottenham, but just to overview the games, so Tottenham led with Bentancur scoring first for them. Mendy hit an absolute thunderbolt for Leicester to bring them level. Maddison was overloading Spurs on a breakaway. What a player Maddison is, by the way. I mean,
he's really hitting form at the minute. Really hit some form.
I thought there might be a cheeky move to Newcastle in January, might have been an option, but for him to stay, and I think now they've got some pace around him, just adds another threat to him again. Iheanacho then played very well. He got the third as he slotted a shot past the human statue / defender that was Eric Dyer. was just nowhere near him. And then Spurs lost the ball again on a high press. There was a questionable VAR call for Harvey Barnes, but not to worry because Harvey Barnes then went and did the business anyway. And they did win 4-1. So Barnes finishes things off. Leicester 4-1. Charlotte. It's the second week in a row Leicester score 4 times. Has Brendan Rodgers got his mojo back?
Well, I'm just laughing at the minute because we're mentioning Dyer and it's just in his name, isn't it? So I've just got the giggles. But, yeah, I completely think Brendan Rodgers has got his mojo back. And obviously they went through a bit of a bad patch, but they did have injuries. Obviously Maddison was one of them. And to me, I think out of the whole team, he is the key player. He's the one. Obviously, they've got the players around him, but if anyone's going to create anything, he's like the main man. I'd say Maddison. But hats off as well to the owners because through that difficult patch, they have stuck with Brendan Rodgers. They gave him time to try and turn it around when he was struggling. So that's something I do like to see. But Yeah, definitely. And the thing is with Brendan Rodgers, we all know and we've all seen what he is capable of doing. I just think for me that with Leicester at the time, they just hit a bit of bad form. They obviously had injuries. They didn't really bring anyone in, did they?
No, it was a quiet window. I mean, they were one of the only
Yeah.
ones to do, and I think that
Yeah.
Rodgers was frustrated, and you could see that there was no kind of new blood, and I think that kind of translated through to the players. They kind of just, as you said, they just kind of flattened down, didn't they? They weren't the Leicester that have been previous seasons with those. Some of the, I mean, Maddison was still doing quite well himself actually.
Yeah.
First half of the season, his stats and that were quite good, but like players like Harvey Barnes was, Jamie Vardy's obviously getting older, so his like influence is
Definitely.
waning, and some of the players I don't think had kicked on. Like Iheanacho has been a bit dry in front of goal, apart from scoring one this weekend. And I forget the other lad who's they got up front, who everyone was really excited about when he came. Their other striker, Patson Daka, that's the one, has kind of not done it either. So they've just, the pieces have just kind of missed, haven't they? And Chris is joining us in the chat here. If I can sort of bring his comment up, exactly. I was coming to that. Tete brought in on loan, I think, has been massive.
That's a great signing. Great signing
as well. Having pace around him has given that extra space, that extra something else, and he seems a right fine. So, I mean, Leicester were due a transfer, to be fair, after the barren summer. So they've done very well in bringing Tete in and seem like they're a different threat entirely. So Leicester now are probably going to be one of those difficult teams because they're not going to get relegated. They're sat in the middle. They've got nothing else kind of going on. They're just going to play free, I think, and that makes them really dangerous for me. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, 100%. And I think now's the time as well where obviously you don't want to play Leicester. Now they've had a couple of wins, or obviously it's not just by the one goal they win in. They've scored, like we mentioned, they've scored 8 goals in 2 games. I think we spoke off air as well. Obviously, they've got Manchester United next. As much as Manchester United are playing well, now's the time where you don't want to be playing them. A few weeks ago, it'd be like, oh yeah, not a bad game. I don't want to say easy 3 points because in the Premier League, no one's an easy 3 points because anything could happen, as we've all seen. But I think now I've been speaking to a couple of United fans and they're a bit like, oh no, now's the time. They've suddenly hit form and obviously now they're due to play them. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, a little bit more nervous than I did a few weeks ago. I was looking at Leicester as thinking, okay, that game in between, because United got so many games in the cups and things. Actually, I think Leicester, after the Leicester game, they've got like 3 weeks into the next Premier League game. So they're going to be, I was thinking, okay, Leicester are just in a bit of a mess and possibly at Old Trafford, that's a kind of a nice one. I bet you say now, they seem to be they seem to have hit the gas a little bit in terms of their attack and start to click things together, which makes Leicester a whole different prospect. And they're going to be one of those teams that I think are going to frustrate and pick points up in kind of very games against the top 6, particularly where they're going to be pressing. You're going to have the top and the bottom in pressure situations, and Leicester just could play this kind of free-flowing style, which may help them. So, Leicester will now be thinking top half's a possibility.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
A massive one for them.
They kind of remind me very similar to like an Aston Villa, where they kind of pick up points, but then the next game they can be an absolute like nightmare. They can be really atrocious, but then like the game after they can go and pull out a result against one of the top teams. You don't know what to expect with them teams.
No, exactly that. They could be, and maybe they go on a 2-3 run and then they're terrible again. And we're having a pod going, oh, Rodgers is in trouble again. They've been sucked back in. But over the last 2 weeks, they seem to pick things up. But obviously, that's half of the story because Leicester were playing a Tottenham side who, as you said, 1 week to the next. I mean, I was having a look today. This was the second season in a row they beat Man City, and then the following game had a really poor result. They lost to Burnley last season after winning 3-2. Obviously got relegated last year, and just a turnaround from 1 week to the next is bonkers. I mean, as if the 4-1 loss wasn't bad enough. They've also got Bentancur now, who's been confirmed to be out with a ruptured ACL for the season. So really bad weekend for Leicester. Tottenham. What do you make about Tottenham going from the City win to a loss against Leicester?
I've been quite vocal on the pod about Tottenham because I've always said about Conte, I just don't. There's something about him, even when he was at Chelsea, I just don't rate him. I just think his whole attitude, I think the whole football, I just think it's all so negative and it's just so inconsistent. But with Spurs in particular, I just can't pinpoint like I just don't get them. Like 1 week, like we mentioned, 1 week they'll show up, they'll be brilliant. The next week they'll be awful. I don't get kind of what style they're playing, whether they don't seem to be attacking anymore. They just seem to sit back. They're quite negative, defensive. Obviously, that doesn't suit Son, I don't think, that role. Like we've seen previously with Son, he's been playing some really good stuff. He's been the main player involved in everything. And I just feel like it doesn't suit him at all. And apart from Harry Kane, because to be fair to Harry Kane, I think if you put him in any team, he'd get goals because I think he's just a quality striker. But I just don't get it. I really don't at all. I really don't.
It's strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tottenham are a funny one, and Conte in particular, as you said. Like, I don't know with him. He seems to sometimes be really engaged and really up for sort of the project, etc. But you know, I'll just go back to comments he was kind of making in January, and it just sniffs of a long-term plan that doesn't involve Tottenham for him. And this he's seeing going, this is a project to put Tottenham back where they need to be. This is a project. They need a lot of money. They need to keep Harry Kane, but also Harry Kane is not, you know, beyond a certain period of time. They're going to have to come up with a plan B. Harry Kane's starting now to get into his peak and then twilight of his career. You argue at 29 is his peak. And so as Chris says there in the chat that Conte may leave unless he spends more money, but they've already spent a lot of money in the squad.
They have.
You know, Bentancur, I think you've got you've got Kulusevski, I think is a top addition. I mean, obviously he had a shocking game at the weekend. Pedro Porro that they just bought in as well in the January window. I mean, he was making mistakes for gravy. But I mean, for his first game, you go, okay, maybe there's some things there, but some worrying starts from him. And they just lost. They've just lost some. Well, we said it before with Son. Chris again says about Son being not just the same player. He was very good against City last week. That was kind of what we started to see and thought maybe it's a corner. But it just baffles me, as you said, how negative they are. Because Kane, Son and Kulusevski should be as good as anything in the league with 100%. A decent midfield behind them. And Højbjerg and Bentancur, when they were together, that's a decent unit. I don't think he's fitting all the pieces together. And Tottenham fans are getting frustrated as well. The whole thing is inconsistent, but Tottenham are still in fourth place, and it might be enough because of the challenges around them. So it might be enough to get fourth, which is realistically where they're challenging, I think. And they're still in the Champions League, of course.
It just baffles me. It's like even Richarlison. They've got Richarlison, and you'd think like what he was like at Everton, he was pretty much the main man, and he's just not. He's just not. Yeah, he's not creating anything. He's not doing anything. And then I look at players around him, and I think Eric Dyer, he should be coming to the end of his career soon. I personally don't think he's good enough. You've got Hugo Lloris. He's been good back in the day, but he's made a lot of faults recently. I don't think he's good enough anymore. Obviously, relying on Harry Kane. Harry Kane's like, is he 29, 30? He's coming to pretty much, I'm not saying the end, but he's getting older now and they can't always rely on him. So I just think to myself, like, these players, they're bringing in these players and stuff. They've got the talent, but I just think they're not gelling. And maybe it is the system. Maybe it is the kind of football they're playing, because on paper, they have got the players, but they're just so inconsistent. I just really don't understand it.
It's inconsistent and the negativity, isn't it? Because I don't get that first half. I think they've got one of the worst records of first half teams. Whenever they get something, it's because second half they have to kind of turn the burners on and kind of go for it a little bit more. And you just think that some says you've got to look at that and go, well, you've got to let that first half be different. You can't keep banging the same nail on the head, in terms of the tactic when it's not giving you the consistency, because that's the threat. I mean, do you think consistency could cost them a Champions League place in the end?
Yeah, I think definitely 100%. And as well, like we were going on about Conte, he is, wherever he's been, he has been a short-term manager. And I feel like maybe if he's not feeling it and if he doesn't want to stick it out, maybe that's one of the reasons. Maybe he's not going to try his best, and maybe he's not going to get these players to the full potential because they know he's not going to stay for long. Maybe he might not be there this season. So there's a lot I think about it. But as I've mentioned before, I just everywhere he's been, I just don't get Conte. And I know he's done stuff in the past. He's obviously done stuff with Chelsea. He's with Tottenham and stuff. They're in fourth place, as we mentioned. But I just feel like there's just something about him. And I don't know if it is because he's a short-term project manager. And maybe with Spurs, it is a bit of a process and it is building and a bit of a project. And maybe he's not the man for that. Maybe he doesn't want to do that and his heart isn't in it.
Yeah, something's not clicking, is it? Something's not clicking. And I think Conte gives you a certain thing, and it can, in the right scenario, clearly kind of works. He said if you're looking for a long-term development of players, of something else, then Conte's probably going to fall slightly off where it needs to be. And Tottenham fans will probably be looking around, and there's nothing worse than seeing your rivals have a really good season, which obviously Arsenal are doing. But you're looking around going, Arsenal are now at a different level. Okay, Liverpool and Chelsea are stepping off, but you would imagine, particularly in Chelsea's case, that something's going to kind of come together. So it's coming through. Newcastle having a fantastic season, so they're sort of sat in there. So they've got some work to do. There's ties around. Manchester United have stepped up, and Manchester City is still Manchester City. So it's a real challenge that they've got coming up for them. So Tottenham are definitely going to be one to keep an eye on, because it could go one way or the other. And of course, Champions League back this week adds another dimension as well, because there's a lot of games coming thick and fast. Two sides who aren't involved in the Champions League, but were involved in a titanic bottom of the table tussle, which ended up in the loss of a job for Nathan Jones and Southampton. We're going to go to Southampton Wolves as the next one, of course. Saints rock bottom. Wolves have picked up with a good win against Liverpool last week. Lopetegui's doing great stuff for them. But Saints must have thought that everything was kind of falling into place. They went 1-0 up. Great start. Their new signing, Carlos Alcaraz, on his debut, put them ahead. Sending off for their former midfield man, Mario Lemina, for Wolves. They're up against 10 men. Surely this is in the bag. Everything's great. But, oh, no. The whole thing fell apart. And so we were just talking off air. And if you've not seen the Jan Bednarak own goal, I mean, it's the you've been framed of footballing calamities. It looks like a baby deer who's only got 3 legs trying to kind of get his balance. It tumbles the ball into the goal to give Wolves level, and then Wolves go and win it late on with their new signing, João Pedro. Is it João Pedro his name was? I did write it down. I think João Gomez, that was it. João Gomez was the one. A couple of minutes to go. And, I mean, deflating beyond belief. The fans were toxic at the end. The post-match press conference sounded like he knew the writing was on the wall. He's making bizarre statements like, when we went down to 10 men, he said, I was worried. I was really worried. I'm thinking, if you're worrying at 1-0 up to 10 men, you must be a big worrier, because there's a lot bigger worries that you'll have in a lot of games. He thought, now we're in trouble. Now we're in trouble. I mean, well, you can't go losing 1-0 at home with 10 men in Southampton's current predicament, can you?
No. And I feel like from the moment he was appointed manager, just some of the things he's come out. I thought it was a weird appointment anyway, but I thought, is it because they kind of, no one really wants to go there? So they've kind of just got someone who does want to they've kind of, I don't want to say they've kind of like been clutching at straws and they got him because no one else wanted to be like the manager of Southampton. That's a bit harsh, but I just felt like they didn't really have any ambition with the appointment, and they've just kind of gone to like someone. But from the moment he was appointed, I thought it was a strange one. And then just watching his interviews, whether it's pre-match, post-match, I've been a bit like, what? Like,
it's baffling. Odd, isn't it?
And then some of the things he were coming out with, his statements, like what was the one we mentioned last week, that he had the best record in Europe or something?
Yeah, at Lincoln, he had the best record at Europe, and then he started quoting. I mean, I'd say Chris says it's perfectly in the fence. He kept going on about Luton, about his time at Luton, about we did this at Luton, we did that, and you're just like, it's a different ball game. Your Championship,
and you're not
Premier
there
League,
anymore.
Yeah, you're not at Luton. There. You've created something at Luton, but you can't keep.
Exactly.
It's the new guy who's turned up at work and is telling you all about what he did in his previous job. Well, and you're like, that's
and
great.
You're just like, shush.
It's got you here. It's got you here, and it's lovely.
You're not there now.
I don't know this person or that person, this person, but we need to deal with these people. Yeah, it just seems bizarre. I mean, I was looking at some of the stats, and it said, first time since 1998, the Saints have had 5 straight league defeats at home.
I thought they were going to struggle anyway, because I actually had them on my predictions to struggle, and all along I said they're going to struggle because I didn't really think they did too much in the summer transfer window. And I think sometimes in the Premier League they can have a good few seasons, one of the teams that have been promoted, and I think they kind of like outstay the welcome, and then it kind of dries up a bit and they end up getting relegated. And I just feel that with Southampton. But I don't want to take anything away from Wolves, because obviously they've done a bit of good business. They've been playing well. Obviously, I'm biased. They've done a bit of good business with Craig Dawson at the back. He'll do a job wherever he goes, no matter where he's been. At West Ham, I remember West Ham fans, when they signed him, were like, why have we got him? And then towards the end, when he was leaving, they were gutted he went, and made some good signings. The new manager's got him playing some really good football. They seem like... With Wolves, I've always enjoyed watching Wolves, because I think they play some really good stuff. And I just think with Southampton, I honestly think they'll finish bottom. I really do think they're going to struggle.
They scream as somebody that almost needs to go down and rebuild and things, because there's a lot of things that aren't
100%.
working at the club. As you said, that the appointment was kind of strange. Their model's always been producing through the academy, selling on, and kind of, but the same kind of talents haven't kind of been coming through. You know, they had that really good kind of period where they were moving on players like Gareth Bale, Theo Walcott, and they had obviously had Sadio Mane, Virgil van Dijk. You know, they were Liverpool's feeder club for a couple of seasons, but really did kind of pocket that in, and that allowed them to bring in a whole load of host of new players. And it's just, the squad isn't strong enough. You know, outside of Nathan Jones, I think you look around the teams, and particularly now that every team has got a new manager bounce. You know, you've got Wolves with a new manager bounce. You've got Everton with a new manager bounce, and Saints are having a new manager flat tire. I think
they never really had that, did they? Even when they got the new manager, they never really had that bounce. No. I think
one win in 8 games.
Yeah.
It's just not quick enough, you know. 3.5 year contract, and it's not even 3.5 months, and it's all over, and they've kind of got to go out again and find something, and that's the fans are hoping. You get somebody with a bit of know-how, and they could get that bounce. But it does worry me that the squad. When you look at the teams around that are going to start to, you would imagine, pull away maybe, that have the potential. You look at West Ham's squad, much better. You look at Wolves' squad, much better. Everton's much better. Leeds is probably much better. You say, I think they really are in trouble. But the board, I suppose, had to move, had to do something to try and move things on. But so interesting fact Chris has given us in the chat. So only once at home actually have a better away record than Liverpool. So there you go.
I love it.
Maybe says more about Liverpool this season than it does about Southampton.
I know.
But there we go. So Saints are on the lookout for a new manager, and see what that brings. You said Wolves 2 wins in 2. I mean, Liverpool previous week, Saints this week with 10 men, showing that kind of battling spirit. They do have I think they have a good manager there too, and I think it just shows the pull. I think we maybe mentioned last week. They look at the teams around them, and the teams that are getting managers of a certain level, you know, that Saints will be thinking, why can't we? You know, Aston Villa, Unai Emery, you know, they're not too far away. They're where Saints would consider to want to be the next bracket up, if you say. Sean Dyche at Everton, proven in the Premier League, done fantastic. Lopetegui at Wolves, and so who knows what Leeds are going to do next? You know, they're still sort of deciding what their future is going to be. So, yeah, interesting times at the bottom. We will see, but at the minute, it's. I know a lot of Southampton fans, and they're finding it very, very, very tough.
It's really hard as well when you're at the bottom, because you can't really afford to make any mistakes. It's like, do you you don't want to sack a manager too soon, but then can you afford to keep a manager, you know, the way they're playing? So I feel like at the bottom, it is a hell of a lot of pressure, because you don't want to make the wrong move kind of thing. And as much as it is a risk getting rid of a manager at this time, when he's not long since been appointed, I just didn't see them really going anywhere under him.
No. Yeah, you couldn't see it. You couldn't see a future, could you? You couldn't see a future.
Especially when you look at the Premier League now, and as we were saying, even the teams towards the bottom, they've got quality managers. And it is very close. It is very close towards the bottom. I can't remember how far, what position, but I think we spoke about it last week, and it was from like Crystal Palace downwards. It is really close, and anyone
really tight,
could go down. Yeah.
And it's going to change and move about. If someone puts a run
definitely.
together, they're out of it. Someone has a couple of difficult games and say, we have the tables we will come to, as well as we will come to Euro Leagues later on. We have some games tonight as well as Everton. So for all you Spanish football fans, Espanyol 0, Real Sociedad 1 is the early score coming in from La Liga this evening. So yeah, so it's going to be an interesting time, I think, at the bottom. And so we've covered Leicester, we've covered Southampton, we've covered Wolves. We haven't covered some of the usual suspects yet. So we're going to come to Arsenal, of course. Arsenal played Brentford this weekend. Brentford last season, we all remember the opening day last season. Brentford, difficult team to play, and particularly at the minute, I think Arsenal obviously dropped points, 2 points. They opened the door. Man City, Man United both picked points up as well, closed the gap slightly. Brentford missed a lot of big chances in that game as well. I think before Arsenal went ahead, there was I think they hit the bar with a real big opportunity. We'll obviously come to the VAR decision very soon. But they got the breakthrough with Saka into back post to Trossard, and it looked like they were going to get over the line. And then I say we will come to it, but I want to just talk first about, do you think, say, the 2 points at Arsenal, and a lot of people are making a thing because they lost to Everton, they dropped 2 points again, but Brentford are a really good side. They're 10 games unbeaten. Do you think it's as bad as some are making out when you consider how good Brentford are as an opponent?
Don't get me wrong, it's frustrating because obviously you're at the top and you want to keep the position, and obviously with teams like getting closer and closer towards Arsenal, it's obviously frustrating for Arsenal fans, but I feel like sometimes you kind of don't give the opponent the credit, and you look at what's happening with Brentford at the minute, and just, it's like, obviously when they play Manchester United, I know obviously Ten Hag had just come and stuff, but they've obviously beat Manchester United. They've got results against some top teams as well. So I just feel like, to be fair to Brentford, they have got some quality players and you cannot ever write them off. They've got a really good team and the manager is doing absolute wonders there with the squad and everything that they've actually got and the budget that they have compared to most in the Premier League. I think they're doing absolutely fantastic. I really do. So I think it is a bit like, I don't like the way like some of the big teams do kind of get the nose up about it, losing to Brentford or a Brighton or something, because they're quality as well. But I do get the frustrations on the other hand, because you're just like, oh, we could have got them 3 points. Obviously, title chase, it is frustrating. So I do get it from both points of view.
It is tough in a title race. Every game is kind of or you don't want to give anything to the rivals, particularly when you're in that front foot position. And there's just because I know from both sides, when United have been chasing, I remember United chasing Chelsea sides, and every week you're hoping for it, and then they dash your hopes, they go and win, and they go and win 1-0, and there's nothing, it just consistently adds. But when you start seeing the points drop, that's when you kind of go, okay, we just need to keep some kind of run going. But as you said, Brentford are not a team to be sniffed at. They obviously stuffed a different kind of Man United team earlier in the season.
Definitely.
Liverpool have, I think they drew against Manchester City. They've been a real handful for everybody, in the league so far. So I think off the back of Everton, possibly concerns, and Arsenal will now go into the game coming up on Wednesday, which is obviously massive with Manchester City, probably a little bit concerned that they're just slightly off where they've been.
Yeah, definitely. I think the most frustrating thing for Arsenal as well against Brentford was the fact they were at home. So you'd expect them at home to obviously pull off a result. Going in with Manchester City, it's a tough one because I watched them in the FA Cup as well, and I kind of thought Arsenal would do a bit more kind of thing against Manchester City, but this is a whole kettle of fish. I think they'll be a lot different to as they were in the Cup, because obviously it is on the line. Their place obviously is on the line kind of thing, and they'll have to put something in. I don't think City, apart from obviously against Villa, have been the best recently. They've been quite inconsistent, so I think anything could happen. I'm hoping for a good game of football, but knowing our luck, it'll have like 0-0 written all over it, which couldn't be bad. It's not bad for United fans, though, to be fair.
No.
Like that.
I think as a neutral game, it can be a tension fest. I'm not sure how that will go with how City have been and Pep constantly changing things. Who knows how he's going to set up with there and try and deal with some of the issues that Arsenal pose. And Arsenal coming off the back of the results that they've had, how they'll approach it will be very interesting. So just before we get on to Man City, we will come to VAR. What is going on? VAR was a colossal turd at the weekend, an absolute colossal turd for me. I mean, there was at least 3 or 4 games on the Saturday with major baffling decisions.
Yes.
And even more baffling was the comments that came out afterwards on getting the... Fair enough, they put their hands up and said, we got it wrong.
Yeah.
But for the reasons that they got it wrong, just seemed like they forgot to draw the lines on for the Arsenal...
Yeah.
The Brentford equaliser, which should have been called offside, that they held their hands up and said, we got it wrong. And then we had the Chelsea game with the handball, which is not necessarily so much of the VR as the handball rule, which is a whole... I have no idea what the handball rule is anymore, because that was crazy. And so we had the other one as well in the Brighton versus Crystal Palace game, where they drew the lines incorrectly. And it's just kind of like have we got a 5-year-old in charge of the of the box sat behind? We've gone to VAR to try and clear these things up, to make it consistent. And we've got more inconsistency and more nonsense. I mean, what are we going to do? What are we going to do from here with VAR?
I just feel like since it's come into football, it has just been... It's just not enjoyable anymore. Like, you see them decisions. VAR was supposed to, like, kind of correct the decisions that obviously the referee doesn't see and stuff. And it's supposed to, like, everyone can see what's happened, and it's supposed to, like, work in favours of teams. But it's just awful. It really is. And I just feel like it spoiled the game. It's like when you see players scoring goals, they're not celebrating because they're looking, thinking, am I offside? Can I celebrate? Is it a goal? Obviously, I just think it's more hassle than what it's worth. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, in lower league, I would love VAR at some decisions. But then I just think to myself, do you know what? It is more hassle than what it's worth when you see some of the decisions there. And especially the handball one. I'm sorry, but Souček made a save, I think. I thought it was like a goalkeeper. He made a save.
Well, this is it. I've got Thomas Souček now as a wonderful goalkeeper. I mean, to get down to his left that quickly and knock that past the post, that was saves and instincts beyond, to palm it wide. But the only problem being he's a midfielder.
I know.
It's unbelievable. I mean, we were watching that, and I get in real time where it was quick and that. But I think that's also a problem because the referees aren't making the decisions there because they know VAR are, and there's some that they then can't overturn because they're relying on VAR. So I get this is a process working through, but VAR's been around for a little while now, and we still just get these basic... I mean, how that was deemed not a handball, which I guess is partly whether there's a problem with the rule or with it, but we're all watching it going, that's handball. That's handball. He's got his hand down. He's going towards that. That's the whole point of a handball. Is it stops the direction of the goal, not intentional. The rest of it, I think that looked pretty intentional as well. If I'm honest, so I'm just completely confused by handball rule.
It frustrates me more because it's been around now for like some time, but it seems to be getting worse. It doesn't seem to be getting any better. It just seems to be getting worse. And some of the decisions, I think to myself like, this is like what happens in like grassroots football when I go and watch like my little boy play, and I'm thinking, even the referees there get it right, and it's like 8:30 in the morning. Yeah, they're still half asleep.
This is it. They can still draw straight lines on pieces of paper. So Premier League in the waiting. It's just VAR. And you say, look, that's 3 games on the Saturday. So by the time we were kind of got the Saturday evening, that half of the games had been impacted by VAR. And it's difficult. Everyone will point to and say that it evens itself out. There'll be teams saying, well, we had that decision, and that kind of does play out. But at the same time, you're like, they need to get these things right because there's massive differences. And as you said, there's nothing worse than, the United one I watched, obviously, when Rashford scored, you're excited, and then the minute VAR comes up, your heart goes, oh, God, no.
It's like, do I celebrate? Do I not? What's going to happen?
You feel like you can't ever celebrate a goal. Yeah, you're just waiting for someone to kind of like give you that piece of paper, and you've still got the disbelief going until the game's kicked off again. You still think someone's going to take it away from you. It's like, no, it's ours. We've got it. It's our goal. Leave us alone.
It's really annoying as well because I feel like even watching the games now, it's very stop-start, and it just reminds me so much of like American football, where it's very stop-start. You're constantly hearing a whistle. It's constantly like doing gestures like to the VAR screen, and I'm just thinking like, this is supposed to be a flowing game, football, and it's kind of took out the enjoyment, because as much as obviously there was controversial decisions and stuff, I just think it's got worse with VAR and it's not helping, because they're just getting them wrong still. Like, what's the point of having it when you're just completely getting it wrong anyway? Might as well just not have it anymore.
And taking so long that we've all got to wait to then watch them, and then us all go, hey, you spent 5 minutes and that's what you've come up with. Yeah, it's different. As say Chris says, mistakes like that could cost titles, and it could, we get imagine we get one on Wednesday, another one that's kind of this nonsense or something. You get, you've seen the joke ones on Twitter where people draw the lines and then they put like a little curve in the middle or something. There'll be something like that that's come out and he's well offside. Look at my straight line drawing. So who knows? Well, this is going to be constant. I get that they're trying to improve and they try to put their hands up and said, look, we've got it wrong. But I think one of the referees has been stood down for 2 weeks. One of them was moved off, I think, the Liverpool-Everton game today. It's confusing for everybody involved. It's not good. So, we'll move on shortly to we've got a couple of more Premier League games to go, and then we'll go through some others. But we do have an update in the Liverpool game. So I will just put this in here. We've had a goal that's gone in, and I can please announce for Josh. Josh is happy because Liverpool are 1-0 up in the Merseyside derby. It's Mohamed Salah. Mohamed Salah has finally remembered that he's actually quite good. Let's put Liverpool ahead in the Merseyside derby. So there'll be a happy Josh out there somewhere at 1-0 up.
He's not crying yet.
He's not crying. There's a long way to go. Who knows? Who knows? 2 teams not crying this weekend. Well, maybe one of them because they've got other issues. But Manchester City and Manchester United both picked up wins, of course. United left it late against Leeds in a very difficult dogged match. And Manchester City beat Villa 3-1 in a repeat of last season. So as we said, they both gained 2 points on Arsenal. More Manchester City at the minute. We'll see with United with the games I think that they have. So it puts Manchester City in that interesting position for Arsenal in midweek. They've got to play each other twice. This is the first one that we've seen. We've seen the FA Cup game, and I think this really will kind of tell us a lot in terms of where it's going to go. And you just feel that this could be a massive momentum switch if Manchester City win, or if Arsenal win, that kind of validation, I suppose, that they could go on and win it.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird because obviously with Arsenal, I feel like they're in a better position, but I feel like they've not got the squad. I think especially with like the cup competitions that they are in, obviously European football, do they have the squad that can obviously get them the title as well? Because I just feel like with fatigue, with suspensions, injuries, are they capable of obviously winning it, or will that have an impact? With Manchester City, I feel like they do have the squad, but I feel like Haaland's been found out a little bit now. I just feel like at the minute watching him and stuff, it just looks lost on the pitch. I really do. I just feel like he's just stood there. He doesn't.
It's
really
a little
know.
bit less impactful from it, wasn't it? I know he kind of had an explosive moment for the assist. I think Chris sort of asked, "Do you think they would play better with or without Haaland?" And I think the rest of the squad is set to play the style that doesn't work for Haaland to a kind of point, but also he's a bit like at times having a nuclear weapon, isn't he? That he's going to. By having him is such a deterrent to other things, and I think City owe it more to him to work it out than to drop Haaland and try and play a different way.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen what obviously Haaland can do and what he's capable of, but at the same time, I just feel like now a lot of teams are kind of finding him out, and once they obviously are on him and they've stopped him, obviously if he's not then very much about City. Obviously, apart from the 3-1 against Aston Villa, I thought Mahrez obviously stood up. Obviously, we've seen him score a few as well. But I just feel like with City at the minute, there's something going on apart from this. I just feel like Pep Guardiola's there's something about him at the minute. I feel like he's kind of coming up with all these different ideas and trying different ideas, and he's kind of shooting himself in the foot, and he's kind of messing up his chances. I just don't know what's going on at the minute. Instead of sticking to what he knows and the formations and stuff, what have been working for him, I think he's just changing it too much.
He's overthinking, and he's moved that back line so many times. He's changed it.
Yeah.
I do wonder now with this finance thing that he's trying to create. You could see that siege mentality that he's trying to. Everyone's against us. Everybody hates us, and he's trying to use that now as the galvanizing force to everybody else. And the world's against us, but we're going to prove them wrong, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, he may well go and do Arsenal on Wednesday. That they're perfectly capable of doing it. Arsenal are perfectly capable of beating Man City if they turn up. And City got to work out some problems in Arsenal's game that they've not had to really deal with before. So that one will be incredibly interesting. And we'll see.
Do you know what?
Sorry,
you know what? I was going to say as well. What's happened with Foden? Because it seems to be people are saying he's got an injury. But then obviously I've seen clips of him and pictures of him training and stuff. So I wonder if something's gone on behind closed doors with him and Pep, because I just feel like he's just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, he's kind of left him out for a bit. I think he was back in the squad this week, but again, not in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
And it just seems, something's going on there. So whether there's an injury, there's something else, nothing's really been said about it. And it's kind of gone under the radar a bit, because usually at other clubs, you imagine Manchester United, for example, suddenly they leave Rashford out for a month and a half. Obviously, Sancho, there's been nothing but talk about Sancho. Nobody said a word about Phil Foden not being about pretty much since the World Cup. We've barely seen Phil Foden.
Yeah.
So it's really mad. I mean, he's just, God knows. I mean, he's not quite Paul Pogba going skiing.
No.
Yet to make his debut for Juventus. I mean,
no. I feel like as well with Manchester City at the minute, I feel like there is a lot of opinions being thrown at each other, and I think there's a lot of kind of toxicity. I can't say it. Toxicity, because obviously we've seen with Pep Guardiola and was it Cancelo, and obviously. Straight away he's gone, and I just feel like maybe there's something going on in the dressing room what's kind of disrupting him. Obviously we've got this with the Premier League, and obviously they're looking into investigations and stuff. So I just feel like maybe City are a bit unsettled, and this might be time, obviously coming on to it now with Manchester United's chance, where there's a bit of unsettlement with Manchester City. Obviously Arsenal are dropping points. Is it Manchester United's chance to kind of jump in?
I think United fans would love to say, I hope so. I hope so. I worry about the number of games and the number of competitions and just think that I think you need a bit of a fall off from both of them. And United just need to put themselves in a position to do it. But you've got 2 matches against Barcelona coming out. You've got a League Cup final. You're still in the FA Cup. There's a lot of games. And as kind of showed in the last couple of games against Leeds, the squads, when you're not you miss Casemiro out of there, 1 or 2 other things, it's good. Can they keep that going? Again, another question. Yeah. Maybe they could. Maybe something they can pull it all together, and they do something incredible. But it worries me the games that they, and so much as we saw again at the weekend. We'll touch very quickly on because we've got a lot of other stuff to get to. But Rashford, of course, again with a goal, so important. You lose Rashford, and Rashford, as in the past, kind of when he's at this point, there is the risk of injury and sort of overplaying and having to do it. But he's so crucial to that Manchester United line at the minute because he's getting some massive goals, and again did it at the weekend.
I just feel like it's a totally different. It looks like a new signing. It looks like a completely different player, like to what we saw last season. I know there was a lot going on with him last season, and I think he's even come out and said it where he's took too much on away from football. Obviously, there was all of that going on in the dressing rooms, obviously. And I just feel like with Rashford now, he's concentrating on his football. Him and Ten Hag, obviously after the goal and at the end of the match, you saw them like smiling together. I just feel like he's really, really enjoying his own football. And he's kind of doing things that he wouldn't have done previously. Like some of the decisions he's making, some of the goals he's scoring, I just feel like he's a completely different new player to what we've seen in the past. And I love watching him. I don't know what to expect. And when I'm watching him now, and I was watching the game on Sunday, I was thinking, do you know what? I actually think Marcus Rashford will score, and he's a man who's going to score no matter what. And it was a bit inconsistent last season, but if anyone's going to score this season, it's going to be Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, he's putting himself in those positions because he didn't have the greatest game at the weekend either. They tried to move him. They actually moved him across to the right when I think Garnacho came on and he was getting. What I've noticed in some stuff I've been trying to sort of analyse with him is his positioning in that centrepiece. In that 6-yard box in the areas. He's in those areas areas a lot more and getting a lot more of those goals. And that's his second header in a week. Marcus Rashford very rarely scores header. This one was easier, I think, than the one on Wednesday. I thought was fantastic because he kind of glanced it.
Yeah.
It was in between. He got in between the defenders. This one was just he picked the perfect spot. Shaw put a phenomenal cross in, a load of pace on it, and it looked quite simplistic. But a lot of that, I think, is the movement. And Rashford in particular, I think he's benefiting from, they've got Benny McCarthy, the old Blackburn striker there as a coach.
Yeah, they have.
And I think I've seen in Rashford's movement in around the box when he's not got the ball has massively improved. And he's also improved in how they play against a low blocked kind of team as well in those areas. Because the traditional Marcus Rashford goal was the breakaway, wasn't it? He's very good on the shoulder. Someone plays it through. Rashford's one-on-one, coming on from that left-hand side to bend it around the keeper. But he's picking up these tapping kind of goals that you didn't see as much from him.
Like some of the movements and stuff he does reminds me a bit of Mbappe. You know, like chopping in and out and stuff.
That's one, the feints,
I just feel like the old Marcus Rashford a few seasons ago and even last season wouldn't do that. And I just think he seems to be really enjoying his football under Ten Hag. And what I like about Ten Hag as well is just his disciplinary. Like what we mentioned a few weeks ago, if obviously they turn up late, anything like that, he straight away drops them no matter what form you're in. And I think Manchester United needed that, like some of the players there, because he didn't really have that under Solskjaer, did they? Because he was a nice guy. And as much as I think Ten Hag is a likeable guy, you can see with him, he is a very strict, discipline, and he's all about that. So honestly, like, I really enjoy watching Manchester United again, and I'm really loving as well this Manchester United Arsenal, because I remember being younger and obviously that rivalry and seeing them back at the top. It's really good to see, and just so many teams like Newcastle just all fighting for that. It's just brilliant. I'm really enjoying it.
It is very fresh. It is very fresh. And so United will be pleased they've got up there. Newcastle picked up another draw. That was the other thing this weekend. A lot of 1-1 draws. People love a 1-1 draw this weekend.
I know.
1-1 was the way. I think we said it in the title, draws galore. But I know you want to mention something on Newcastle before we move on.
Yeah, I was just flicking through Twitter, and I don't know anyone who really dislikes Eddie Howe. He just comes across as such a genuinely nice guy, and just what he does with football and his teams, the team spirit and togetherness. And I saw this video, and it was a Bournemouth fans after the game because of everything like he did for Bournemouth, and all Newcastle fans were like clapping him, and just the respect that everyone's shown him. And it just made me really emotional, because you don't really see that in football now. It's like when a manager leaves, you always get the fans who are like, oh, and like shouting and stuff in the stands. But I just think Eddie Howe and what he's doing for Newcastle and what he's done for Bournemouth, and just the respect he has. And as much as people don't class him as a top manager, I just think, like, why? Because at the end of the day, what he's doing and just the respect and what he does with, no matter where he's at, the teams, the togetherness, everything, it was just so good to see. And just he was getting emotional himself in the video. And I love Eddie Howe. He's so underrated. He really is.
He is, I think, and it showed, as you said, the fans got emotional as Chris said. He got emotional as well. It was lovely to see.
So did I.
Josh, I was there going, I love you, Eddie. This is too much. It's nice to see the appreciation that they understand what that means, and they understood why he had to move and take the step as well. You know, that there's that kind of understanding going, I can see it. It's and that respect, like we say, we don't really get to see it. So it was lovely to see Eddie Howe get his reception. So as Newcastle drew 1-1 in that game with Bournemouth, another draw for them. And so the other game just was obviously Fulham beating Nottingham Forest 2-0. Another good win for Fulham.
Did you see that Willian goal? Did you see Willian's goal? It was good. It was very good. It's
the Willian of old, wasn't it? He rolled back the years for what Willian used to be. So a good win for Fulham, a good win for everybody.
Yeah.
And so that then brings us to, if I can just sort of bring it up in a second. So bear with me while I sort of fill with a little bit of chitter chatter. As I stick up here, as it's coming in, and it will come up very soon. We're kind of half in at the minute. It's coming. It's coming. It's made it. My internet is just about surviving with everything else. So we've gone one too far. We will be coming back to the Championship. But we'll just have a quick look at the Premier League table, as we said. Positions are all kind of the same. Fulham and Brentford switched there with their wins. So Fulham up to 7th and Brentford down with a draw at Arsenal, which is a bit harsh. And Leicester's big win takes them ahead of Nottingham Forest. But so you can see, as we said there at the bottom, just starting to kind of congregate sides between 12th and 15th. They're hoping they're kind of away, and teams that are hoping they can kind of close the gap. But at the minute, Everton 1-0 down means they're going to stay where they are. So, but at the top, this is where we're all interested in what's going to happen on Wednesday. And you've already seen it very briefly. Unfortunately, we have our lower league expert below the Premier League. Charlotte is going to take us through. Charlotte, What is going on in the Championship? Lots of movements by the looks of it in the table.
Yeah, so obviously Burnley is still at the top. They had a great win at the weekend. Vincent Kompany, as I've already said, been playing some really good stuff under him. It's kind of got them going really well. And obviously we're all used to the Sean Dyche kind of Burnley and like the dirty football and stuff, but he's got them playing some really, really good stuff. So it's really good to see.
Burnley,
yeah, it's really good to see, and obviously a local team to me as well. So it's always nice to see them doing well. Sheffield United, obviously still second, so there's no change in the top two. Middlesbrough on 51 points. They beat Cardiff away 3-1. And I just want to give a mention to Michael Carrick, and he's been doing so well. I saw a stat that he's been in charge for 104 days now, and he's took them from second from bottom of the Championship up to third. He's played 14 games. They've won 11, drawn 1 and lost 2.
That's mad. That's 10 more days than Nathan Jones, by the way. So that shows the complete other opposite of the spectrum, what you can achieve in 3 months.
But I just think like Michael Carrick and just what he's achieved there, it's just fantastic. It really is, to say that they were so low in the table as well. He's doing really well, and I'd love to see them go up as well, because I've always been a fan of Michael Carrick. I think he's so underrated.
I think, he was, as a player, so underrated in terms of what he could achieve. And he's also been under some top managers. Okay, it might not have worked out at Man United, but to work as a coach, I think he was under Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho. He even had a couple of matches in charge. I think he won both of them before after Solskjaer did as kind of an interim. So there's clearly some coaching capability there, and I'd love to see Middlesbrough back up. They're one that we've missed for a few seasons, haven't we? Yeah,
definitely. You think of the contacts he'll have as well, Michael Carrick. With just like we were saying, who he's been under, and like who he knows, the contacts he'll have to bring players in. It's quite scary, actually, isn't it? In a good way.
It is a worry.
In fourth place as well, they've obviously not been missing him, but Luton with 49 points. They drew 1-1 to Coventry. Obviously their ex-manager, who got sacked, bigging him up, and they're fourth now, so they're clearly not missing him.
No.
Millwall have got a spot in the playoffs. 5th place on 46 points. They beat QPR 2-1 to obviously secure that spot. And then we've got Watford, who are always kind of up there and stuff. We've seen them in the Premier League a few times, haven't we, in recent years? They've got the last playoff spot. They drew 1-1 at home to Blackburn. And in relegation, we've got the same teams, but we've kind of had a turnaround. So at the bottom, we've got Blackpool on 28 points. They gained a point after a 0-0 draw at home to Rotherham. And then it was actually a bottom of the table clash. So Wigan played Huddersfield. Wigan actually came out winners, and they beat Huddersfield 1-0. Yeah.
A double jump. So bottom of the table. Now they're stiffing behind Cardiff, aren't they, to get out of the bottom 3?
And just to mention as well about Huddersfield, they have appointed Neil Warnock as the manager. I think it's only until the end of the season, but if anyone's going to obviously get them out of trouble, I think he's the man, 100%. I think that's a great appointment from Huddersfield.
That's a great appointment, and I'm sure that Hayley will agree as well. She was banging on for Neil Warnock a couple of weeks ago to come back, and it's good news, Hayley. He's back. 74, I think I saw the other day as well.
He's been watching the pod. He's been watching the pod and saw Hayley. The pod
and said, "You know what, Hayley? I agree. It's time to come out of retirement and put things right." So there he goes.
So that's the Championship.
Excellent. And so we'll move on to, of course, League One. League One is here.
Yes,
it was top of the table battle, wasn't it, this weekend?
Yeah, so obviously last week we had Sheffield Wednesday at the top. This week we've got Plymouth at the top. Yeah. So Plymouth obviously have took top spot again. Sheffield United only managed a draw against Ipswich. They drew 2-2, so Ipswich is still in third. But how close are Bolton? Look at the points.
They've jumped
Bolton
in,
have
haven't
come
they?
creeping up. Yeah,
They've come through, creeping up, absolutely. So the ups and downs I've got here, just for the viewers, this is from last week. So if there were some midweek games, we're including the midweek games in the change. So that's why there might be one or two that are. But Bolton, right on Ipswich's heels there. Played a game more, haven't they? But
they actually beat Peterborough as well 5-0. So it weren't as if it was just like a 1-0 scrape. It was like a battering by Peterborough, and they're not too bad as well. Where are they? In 9th place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's some doing for Bolton.
That's a big win. That was, yeah.
Yeah. Derby is sitting 5th place. Unfortunately, they lost 3-2 to Wickham. So Wickham are there as well, 7th. So they're just outside of the playoffs. So that was quite a close game. And then Barnsley, who are in 6th place, beat Cambridge at home 2-0. But Cambridge, unfortunately, are sitting near the bottom. I know.
It's tight down there, isn't it? So Cambridge and Accrington moved a slot, didn't they? But that's a very tight bottom of the table, isn't it? 18th. That's Fleetwood downwards, really.
Yeah, definitely. And they all actually drew. So Morecambe drew against Forest Green, who were at the bottom. Accrington managed a 0-0 draw against Cheltenham, but obviously Cambridge lost. So obviously now it's just, I can't call it, because as much as you want to say them 4 teams, because obviously they've been down there quite a while now, MK Dons keep going up and then coming back down. It's very, very close from Fleetwood.
It's really changeable, isn't it? And you've got a lot of teams there with some big minuses on the goal difference as well, which shows they've had some big losses during the season as well. I've just noticed I've managed to give Fleetwood a ±1, which is pretty impressive. So well done to Fleetwood.
If you go down Fleetwood, it doesn't matter because you got a +-.
You got a +-1. You see, you can decide whether it's a plus or a minus. It's like a joker card in a game card.
Yeah, so that's League One done for today.
And of course, League Two is coming.
Yeah, and I'm not actually that depressed, because we actually played well. But I'll get on to us last. We'll go from the top first. Obviously, Leyton Orient is still in 1st place. We've got them tomorrow, though. I'll get onto that later, but that's a tough game for us tomorrow. They drew 1-1 away to Walsall. Walsall are actually quite a good team. They're coming up there, Walsall.
Mm-hmm.
They're 15th, but they've made some good signings, in January.
They've got a few games behind as well. They're 27,
have.
So a couple of wins. They're probably, look how much Doncaster jumped last week with 6.
Exactly.
Walsall have only got a win or 2 and they're playoffs, yeah.
It's so close, League Two, so close. Stevenage, obviously, I mentioned I thought they would win the league. I still am finger holding that. I do think they'll win the league, but they lost 3-2 to Bradford this week. But it's Bradford. Bradford are a good team, don't get me wrong. It's just a blip. They've pulled some great results off recently, so I'm not too worried about that. Stevenage is in 2nd place still. Carlisle are in 3rd. They drew 0-0 away at Wimbledon. Northampton obviously played us. In 4th place, they are 1-1 draw. But to be fair to Southampton. I've got Southampton on my mind. To Northampton, they had a few players out, but I do not think they deserve that. And I've spoke to Northampton fans since, and we play some really, really good stuff. Honestly, we play some really good stuff. Salford in 5th place. They lost 1-0 to Tranmere. Mansfield in 6th place. They beat Gillingham 2-0. So that's a good result for us as well, because Gillingham are near the bottom.
Just a comment we've had in here from Zis. Here's Solaris on the Sparky, of course. There's Mark Hughes, of course, trying to pet ball at Bradford, of course, trying to get his way through there. Yeah, absolutely.
We beat him as well. We can't be that good. We beat him.
There you go. There's a new pet ball starting at Rochdale.
I know. And Stockport, obviously, in 7th place. They beat Harrogate 3-1, which was another great result for us. So it was a shame that we didn't nick the win and go on to obviously win that, because as much as it's brilliant to gain a point, the 3 points would have just been ideal, especially with all the results around us seem to have gone our way this week, whereas the week before they didn't. But this week they seem to all go our way, so that's a bit frustrating. But yeah, I think it's still very close, because if you look from Harrogate in 20th place, it's not.
It's not a million miles away. You're a couple of. I'm always a thought process at this stage of the season until you get to the last like 10 games or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're within 6 points of anybody, then that's a
Yeah.
very, very quick turnaround. That can happen. Obviously, games in hand, and
Yeah,
it depends
definitely.
who you play and who you've got. I know you've got some difficult games coming up. You said like Northampton there, to pick a point off Northampton, you nick 1 or 2 in this next run, and then you have a bit of a confidence boost off of the back of that. It can all change.
Do you know what though? With us recently, like we've not managed to really get any points off the bottom teams recently, but we are getting some off the top teams. And to me, I would rather play the top teams at this point because I feel like we could get something against them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the bottom teams, we seem to be even worse than usual against them, the teams that we should be getting points off. But obviously, like I mentioned, we managed to beat Bradford. We only just lost to Salford the week before. Northampton, it was an 89th minute equaliser, which was gutting, but I would have took a point. Like obviously before seeing us play that good, I would have took a point easily. It's just frustrating because we really did play well.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think if we played the way we did on Saturday in our next games, I think we're in a good chance of like scraping survival. I'm not going to say we're obviously not going to get relegated because we're in the worst position out of everyone. But if we carry on fighting and carry on playing like we did, I think we've got a good chance of staying up.
Exactly. Every chance. Yeah. Half the battle is if you feel you're playing well and it bodes confidence in the squad, then it gives hope, doesn't it? Hope to the supporters that it can happen and things can improve. So, we all watch with bated breath every week.
Yeah, tomorrow as well from the Championship, obviously all the way down to League Two. It's like full fixtures as well, so we've all got games.
We've got games, so we'll have 2 to cover next week. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lots of big matches to coming up there. So, no, thank you. Excellent review, as always, of the lower league, Shah. Fantastic.
Thank you.
And I'm now doing all the Euro ones because my European friends that usually cover this are not here today. So Lucas normally does Serie A, so I'm going to have a job in terms of a quick run through because we've got quite a bit still to get through. If I can get my notes up in just a second. Here we go. So Napoli are still an absolute mile clear in Serie A.
Yeah.
An easy 3-0 win for them over relegation for the Cremonese, who've only got 8 points. So really, I mean, as obvious as a win as you could see all season. Special K again, Victor Osimhen and Elmas for Napoli with a 3-0 victory. Atalanta picked up a good 2-0 win away at Lazio, which jumps them into the Champions League spaces, but it's again super tight. Atalanta, Roma, AC Milan, Lazio, 2 points between them in a real fight with Inter Milan only sort of 2 points ahead of that. AC Milan beat Torino 1-0 on Friday night, and Roma drew 1-1 away at Lecce, who are down there in 13th. So I think those places are going to continue to kind of flip about. But no one's catching Napoli.
Not a chance. Something drastically has to go wrong for anyone to catch Napoli.
Well, and have such a run, and probably the worry, and we'll come on to the Champions League fixtures shortly. But Napoli are, I mean, they'll almost have the title wrapped up, which we've seen this before though with Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich sometimes had the German Bundesliga wrapped up and struggled when they then got to the latter stages. But Napoli might be able to focus. They might be able to focus on the Champions League where they're so far ahead. Juventus, of course, are not in the fight because of, as we discussed on the previous pod, a whopping great points deduction. They beat Fiorentina 1-0, but they're still miles behind anywhere that they need to be. I mean, they might sneak into the European places, which is, they're in the Europa League now. They're not in the Champions League. So perhaps,
who knows for you,
there's still a shot. And Inter Milan are currently playing away at Sampdoria tonight. And last time I checked, it was 0-0. So Inter Milan playing currently in Sampdoria. And again, look like a team in trouble near the bottom. So that is Serie A. And we move across to La Liga. It is Spain.
Oh.
It is Viva España. And, well, Real Madrid won the Club World Cup, which is, well, to be honest, as a tournament is like, nah. They beat the champions of Egypt and Saudi Arabia. So, yeah, that happened. That happened, and they got a trophy. Lovely for everybody involved. But it did mean that Real Madrid didn't play this weekend and gave Barcelona the opportunity to extend their lead. A Pedri goal away at Villarreal gave them a victory. They go 11 points clear of Real Madrid and have been fantastic. And their defensive record is something it's something to behold. They seem to be sort of really gaining some momentum now under Xavi and turning a corner. We all thought Barcelona were in an absolute state. They still financially, there's question marks, there's Super League talks, there's all of that nonsense still going on. But it does make for, particularly in my case, and at the Man United does, a mouth-watering Thursday night match this week and next week. So Barcelona are looking well gone at the moment. One other one probably to note, well, Betis are doing quite well. They've jumped up into fifth place. Yeah, they are doing
very well, yeah.
They've snuck in there. They beat Almeria 3-2 this weekend. So they've jumped into kind of that fifth position. Sociedad, as we saw, are winning at the moment. So they look like they're going to gain a little bit further on Atletico Madrid, who also won this weekend. And then we turn to the bottom half, and we have the retirement home of Sevilla are in dizzy heights. Dizzy heights. If you follow the podcast regularly weekly, we've been spotting Sevilla having all sorts of issues towards the bottom of the league so far. But no, they've jumped up into 12th place. I've just spotted another scores come through on my phone. I can't update the ticker because I've got all sorts of stuff going up. So I'll just tell you that Liverpool are 2-0 up against Everton.
Seen that.
And Cody Gakpo scored his first goal for Liverpool. So
damn.
So Josh is having an evening and a half here, isn't he? He's having a Merseyside whale of a time. But Sevilla up to 12, so they look like they're moving up. But the mantle has been taken by, look who's in 18th place.
I was going to say, that's a shock. They used to be a really good team, Valencia, back in the day.
They've dropped off and are in real trouble now. I mean, it is tight. I mean, look, again, that whole bottom half, there's 4 points.
Yeah.
Sevilla had jumped up, so Sevilla could still get jumped in, but they're on a bit of a decent run. Valencia lost at home to Athletic Bilbao, who have been a good side this season, but they're in deep doggy doo-doo.
They're in really big trouble.
All of these teams are fighting, apart from Elche, who again are a bit adrift at the bottom. So the retirement home of Sevilla may have to be watched by the dizzy fall of Valencia. That might have to be the one that we're keeping an eye on next week. And we go over to the German Bundesliga, and atop, as always, seems to be is Bayern Munich. They've got their eyes on a massive Champions League clash coming up with PSG this week. Very exciting, that one. But they saw off Bochum 3-0 thanks to Thomas Müller, Kingsley Coman and Serge Gnabry with the goals to put that one away. But Josh, big news, massive news. Union Berlin are not done. They're not done, sir. No, sir. No, siree. They were in second place, only a point behind. And they had a great comeback this weekend. They were 1-0 down against RB Leipzig away from home. And turn that round to a 2-1 victory. So they remain just a point behind Bayern Munich. So that is something we've been supporting all season. Come on, Union Berlin. The dream still survives.
I love looking at the goal difference.
It's bonkers, isn't it? Yeah. Just put lots. I think next week I'm just going to put lots instead of the number for Bayern Munich. And so don't worry about goal difference. It's not going to come into play. Bayern Munich plus 41. Union Berlin are still in there. It wasn't just them that won this weekend. Borussia Dortmund had a 2-0 victory against Werder Bremen, so that puts Dortmund into third place. And Freiburg kept up pace, defeating Stuttgart 2-1, with Stuttgart dropping into the bottom two. So Stuttgart and Schalke now in those bottom two places, with Hertha Berlin in 16th. Wow. Moving to the final European table of the night. Of course, it's French League. It's a shock, of course. French League, which we call PSG Watch for the week. PSG actually lost to Marseille in the Coupe de France in midweek, knocked out of the French Cup on Wednesday night, and then went and lost to Monaco in the lead, 3-1 away from home. I mean, again, 8 points clear. We all know what's going to happen there, but clearly they have an eye on the Champions League.
Yes.
And that is because the Champions League is back. Segue to the Champions League.
There's some good games.
Some absolute belters coming up here. Absolute belters. I mean, so we've got the Champions League is being split again. So we have 2 matches on Tuesday, 2 matches on Wednesday, 2 matches the following week on Tuesday and Wednesday. Of course, it's clashing. We've got Arsenal, Manchester City on Wednesday and the Champions League. I mean, this is just, we're all going to need multiple televisions. This is just utterly
I was going to say, I'll have to get my phone out, an iPad out. What do you think?
There's just too much going on. How are we going to keep track of all of this going on? But say 2 belting ties here. We'll have a little bit of a one-off prediction here, Shah, where we're gonna go and try and predict these Champions League games in terms of who we think is going to qualify in general and see how we get on in a couple of weeks' time. But so first off, it's obviously a massive clash: Paris Saint-Germain versus Bayern Munich. As we saw, Bayern on a bit of a tear in Bundesliga. Paris Saint-Germain lost a couple of games. They think Mbappe might be fit. How do you see PSG versus Bayern Munich going?
Oh well. I've got loyalties to PSG because, I'm a fan of Sergio Ramos, but I do have a soft spot for Bayern Munich. But I just think the way PSG have been playing recently, I'm going to go with Bayern Munich. I think they'll go through.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. Every time Paris Saint-Germain, I think against the top elite sides, they give too much away in terms of their attack that don't work hard enough, and they get caught against a team that are really spot on and organised. And I think Bayern have that firepower that could be the issue. We've seen it multiple times with PSG, but they do again. You've got an Mbappe, you've got something else, you've got an X factor, you have an X factor,
haven't you? Yeah.
Something that could happen. That first leg will be massive, I think. First leg.
Definitely.
Okay, but I forget if it was them. I think they played the other season, and there was a real bonkers game. It was like 5-4 or something ridiculous between those two. That's what I just want those Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich to just go at each other. Just give us an entertainment fest, and it will be 8-all, two double desis. We'll have 8-all, extra time and penalties. Absolute dream. I'm going to back the same as you shot. I'm going to go. I think Bayern Munich will qualify over the 2 legs. Then we come to AC Milan versus Tottenham Hotspur, of course, that we just discussed after their performance at the weekend. How's that one going to go?
Do you know what, right? As much as I've obviously been going on about Tottenham and how they've got beat against Leicester, it won't surprise me if they actually won in the Champions League. But I think I'm going to go with AC Milan.
You're going to back AC?
I'm going to back AC.
Back AC Milan. I'm going to go the other way, just because I think exactly that is that we know Tottenham are inconsistent. AC Milan are not having the greatest season. They've not kind of put together off the back of winning the title last season. It's dropped off. This is the kind of thing I think maybe suits Conte. First legs at the San Siro. That is a good
point, actually. That is a good point.
If they can keep it tight. I just think, this might suit Tottenham, this tie. So, but again, a tight one to call. I wouldn't be surprised the other way to AC Milan to win 2-0, 3-0 on Tuesday night, and Tottenham are in real trouble. But I'm going to back this one. I'm going to go with Spurs. Spurs is my pick. That's the first one where we're not on the same page for. But when we come to Wednesday night, so this is what you have on the other television options while you're watching, of course, Manchester City versus Arsenal. Borussia Dortmund versus Chelsea. What could have been the Thomas Tuchel derby is not. How do you see that one going? Dortmund versus Chelsea.
This is a tough one because obviously Jude Bellingham is a quality player, but I just think watching Chelsea at the minute and the transfers they've done in January and some of the signings they've got, I'm going to go with Chelsea.
Going to go with Chelsea. I look at it and I just think Chelsea clearly have got a lot of work to do to transition what they're trying to do. They seem to be, and I think rightfully so, have said, look, Potter's under threat. We're backing him. We're going to give him the time to make this work. So it's almost like the back half of this season is almost a write-off because now there's nothing. Champions League seems like it's a step away, but somebody falls away. You've got Tottenham, Newcastle in there. Maybe they have a bit of a wobble. Something else drops out of the top 3 they could sniff. But Chelsea, whenever they've won the Champions League, has always been when they've had a horrendous league season.
True.
The 2 times they've done it, they've kind of come from nowhere.
Imagine Graham Potter winning the Champions League in his first season.
Playing a different 11 in every round. There'll be no player that plays twice. He'll have used 79 of their squad by the time they get to the final and they do the job. I'm actually going to go for Dortmund on this one.
Yeah.
I think, Bellingham and some of the particulars they have in the squad is just where Chelsea are at in terms of their progress. I think if you look a couple of weeks, a month down the line, some of these new signings bedded in and they had a style. Just think at the top table, they might be a bit too open some of this way. But again, Chelsea have done it in the past where they turn up and do the job in the Champions League, despite being terrible in the Premier League. talking of not so well. Club Brugge were the ones we remember. Club Brugge, if you remember in the group stages, were fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I must say, sorry, just quickly on that. Of course, Sebastian Haller being back, that's brilliant for Dortmund as well.
True. Yeah,
I'm something else scoring his goal.
Yeah, so I'm so glad for it.
I think everyone would love to see him do something over these two legs.
Definitely.
But Club Brugge, were fantastic. They were the shocker, weren't they, in the group stage? Absolutely put pedal to the metal. I think they've sacked their manager since, and they've had all sorts of issues. So this might not be the same kind of Club Brugge, but some fantastic young players there. And of course, Benfica always seem to have a production line of talent coming through, and are always a strong side over in Portugal. So Bruges versus Benfica, Shah. How's this going?
I'm gonna go with Benfica.
I'm gonna have to agree. I'd love for Club Brugge. I was so behind. Boogie. I was calling them in the group stages. I was all about the boogie.
Boogie. Oi.
So I'd love them to continue that, but I just think in terms of the changes they've had, it's a long time since November, and it's I think Benfica are an experienced European side who will get the job done. So that's this week. But then if we flip over to next Tuesday, the remaining ties that need to be played, we spoke about them earlier. Frankfurt versus Napoli. I think we might be thinking the same thing here.
Napoli.
I think it's Napoli. I think they are the dark horse. Maybe not even the dark horse. They're top of Serie A and by belting. But I think outside of the traditionals, the top English sides, Madrid, Barca, PSG, you've got to be looking at Napoli, particularly with that draw as well against Frankfurt.
Yeah, 100%. Especially as well, considering like how much you're running away with the league already. They don't really have to focus much on that. They can kind of put it all into the Champions League. So I reckon Napoli 100%. But I did say Brendan Rodgers had been sacked months ago, so it's probably going to be Frankfurt.
This is it. Frankfurt are the current Europa League champions. Maybe they've got something else up their sleeve. They've got a way to deal with Special K. Maybe they know something we don't. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Napoli's pretty safe bet. And a tie that Liverpool, Real Madrid, as mouth-watering as it gets, particularly with the history with those two over the finals, Liverpool probably will be frustrated, I think, in terms of how they've not. This isn't the Liverpool they would want to be at them. They've got a point to prove against Real Madrid, and maybe not quite the right time for them to do so, or maybe it will be. Liverpool, Real Madrid, how's it going?
I'm going to go Real Madrid just to annoy Josh.
just because of not footballing reasons.
Just to annoy Josh.
Pure banter FC.
Yeah.
Just to get the win. And I do think Liverpool have the potential to do something here. Because again, Real Madrid in the early sort of stages of the knockout, coming back off the World Club Cup.
Yeah.
Liverpool aren't there, and again, this might just raise the bar. But the second legs at the Bernabeu.
That's the thing as well. It's like
second legs at the Bernabeu.
Liverpool have obviously lost to Nottingham Forest this season, but it wouldn't surprise me if they lost against them, but then pulled out a result against Real Madrid and played brilliant. You
can still see them. I mean, we saw it earlier in the season when they did Manchester City. There's a performance in there at the top level because the interest sparks, something else happens. But I think if it was round the other way, I might be thinking Liverpool at Anfield in that second leg, you get a goal. But I think that makes the difference for me. So I'm going to go Real Madrid as well. Sorry, Josh. Yeah. But Union Berlin are in the Europa League, so don't worry. There's still a team to support in Europe.
I'm not sorry. I wanted to annoy you.
You'll have to watch him. Watch him come May when he pops down to Rochdale when it's a relegation battle.
I know, we'll be like,
I don't want to see you. Go away. And the final two games in the Champions League next week on Wednesday. Some interesting ones. So we have Inter Milan, currently second in Serie A, and Porto. I'm not entirely sure where Porto are in the Portuguese League, whether they're winning it or not. I think it was them and Benfica maybe the last time I looked. But Inter Milan versus Porto. What do you think?
That's quite a good tie, that. I think they're two quite decent teams, to be fair. I think it's got the potential to be quite a good tie, but I'm going to go with Inter Milan, I think.
I think the same, Inter Milan. I think this they're a decent outfit and can perform fairly well. And I just think Porto maybe not being quite the Porto of old. They lost a few players in the summer. But again, a tie I think will be tight.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be much between it. Definitely not.
Nope. And the final tie is RB Leipzig versus Manchester City.
As much as it'd be funny for them to do something, I just think Manchester City will win this one. As much as it'd be funny the other way around, I think Man City have got this one.
Yeah, I remember Leipzig being a pain in the neck when we got done by them a couple of years ago. They were, and I think it was Manchester City's left back Angelino or something that day.
Yeah.
We were getting killed. I remember down there, these wing backs that kept appearing in space, and Wan-Bissaka was looking up at like a blimp or something because he certainly wasn't picking up any runners that day. And we had a real nightmare to qualify through the group. But yeah, Manchester City. Yeah, this is the one that Pep wants. This is the focus that will be on it. And although he's tinkering or whatever, they'll be too strong for Leipzig over 2 legs.
I reckon so.
Yeah, there'll be nothing there. But I do want a very quick, the last one that we had, the last thing, we do have to touch on the Europa League. And because I'm in charge again, so I can talk about Man United. The Europa League is where it's at. This is the excitement. This is the real Champions League. We're facing Barcelona this week in the Europa League playoff first leg, last 16. It seems bonkers. The size, but hey ho, we've both done it to ourselves with our performances. But this is for the clashes. This isn't all the clashes, but just some top ones there. We won't kind of do predictions. We'll just kind of run through what we've got. And I wanted to Union Berlin. They could be on for a double, a historic double. They've got Ten Hag's old Ajax.
There's some really good ties, isn't there, to be fair? Some of them have got the potential to be really good games, yeah.
Really belting. I mean, that one, come on to that second in a moment. Red Bull Salzburg. Red Bull can be a nightmare for anybody in Europe at times. Absolute pain in the neck Salzburg can be. Again, a lot of talented. They're a very good sort of academy, bringing through a lot of players. They buy a lot of players young, and they're bringing a lot through. Quality players at Salzburg. Obviously, Roma, Jose Mourinho. He loves European competitions. They won the Conference League last year. He'll be enjoying and looking forward to that tie. The retirement home of Sevilla have picked up a bit of form. PSV Eindhoven, another name that we know. Of course, they lost Cody Gakpo as one of their better players coming into the last 16. So some belting ties. And then, Barcelona, Manchester United, the new camp on Thursday, playing absolutely fantastic.
I'm gonna put it out here. I reckon United will. I don't know if they'll win this leg, but I reckon overall United will win.
And I'm interested to see. I looked at the selection at the weekend where Ten Hag rested Varane and he rested Martinez. Casemiro's obviously been suspended, so he's prepped and ready to go. That he kind of really wants this. That's
what I'm going to throw it out there. I reckon they'll beat back. I'm not saying they'll come out. I'm not saying they'll win it like on Wednesday, the tie. But I think out of the 2 games, I think United will get through to the next round.
Yeah, and I think this is a very tight Barcelona tie. I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals in this one. I think I could see like a 1-1 draw or 0-0 or a 1 either way.
Especially the fact as well that obviously you're going to the new camp first, but you're at Old Trafford obviously last. So I think that'll work out in favour, hopefully. If you keep it quite tight,
I think they'll try and go pragmatic. United have not got the greatest record in Spain away in any European competition, even when they were, kind of the powers that they were. So everyone remembers the belting games in '99 with Barcelona. I just think this would be a bit more cagey. And long term, United got so many games, say the Europa League, to kind of get through all of that seems quite a sort of thing. So this almost to me is a bit of fun and a bit of a free hit. But my gut feel it will be 1-1. They'll sneak an away goal to take back to Old Trafford. And then the European night, Barcelona under the lights, and the rest of it will hopefully be enough. But this is a clever Barcelona team that are a different prospect to what they would have been early on in the season, I think. So
I just think as well, like we mentioned about them resting, like Varane, Martinez, obviously Casemiro will be like a fresh player when he comes in. Obviously Rashford's on form. So I think you cannot write Manchester United off. I really don't think, especially the way they're playing and the way Ten Hag's obviously got them playing in the mentality of Ten Hag. I honestly think they're a lot stronger than what people think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Apart from the fact it's a 6:15 kickoff.
I know.
Which UEFA, it's not helpful for putting people's kids' teas on and putting to bed. They're gonna have to. It's a recording job. It's a recording job for me. I'm not going to be able to keep tabs on that while I'm having to read Winnie the Pooh or something at the same time.
The only good thing with me is because obviously Bob is a United fan. He obviously like tries and's like, oh, can I stay up late? Can I stay up late? So at least with it being that kickoff, it won't be up as late.
It won't be up as late. Yeah, the second leg, you got a problem. Second leg starts at 8. Second leg's a whole different kettle of fish. So no, I think it will be interesting. I think it'll be tight. I'm looking forward to it. Lots of good football to come. We've covered a lot of football. This is it. I think we've done well. We've said it's just the two of us, and I think we've managed to we've managed to cover. We've gone on the whole of Europe twice and back, and we've made it all the way back through. So I think thank you everybody for joining us in today and in the comments. It's always great to see people in the comments and kind of interacting with us, and we enjoy that with you guys. We will be back on Thursday, but not with our usual light bite, because if you saw on Twitter, we were posing some questions to Charlotte for a special interview episode, which I can confirm is recorded. It's currently locked in the vault, ready for a bit of editing. But we won't be doing the light bite, but we will be at the same kind of time, so probably about 8 o'clock that we'll look to release that video, which is a full. If you want to find out more about Charlotte, her story, her game 2, Rochdale, how she got into football, everything else, with a question about whether she likes 100 elephant-sized chickens or 100 chicken-sized elephants, which one is what. So if you want to find out the answers to all those questions, keep tabs on the YouTube, subscribe to the account, and it will be on there. Of course, you can catch us all every week on Spotify, on Amazon Music. We'll be uploading that. We've got the link back, so that will be coming up. So apologies if you're listening to this and we've not been on the audio. We will be uploading there a lot more regularly, so you'll see our stuff through there. And of course, every Monday, 8 o'clock, Twitch and YouTube, you can catch us live. But of course, where can people catch you directly, Shah?
Everywhere at the minute. I bet they're sick of seeing my face, but I'm most active on Twitter, Instagram. I'm on TikTok as SharXRAFC, and if you want to like keep tabs on my Her Game 2 stuff on Instagram, Twitter, it's Rochdale HGT, and we're on TikTok as well.
Absolutely perfect. Keep in touch with all of that in the socials and some great stuff that's on there. I'm Up the FM Ducks on my channel, so you can catch me on my YouTube channel, dropping sort of football videos, etc. Going to hopefully do some more. So I'm hoping to do a Marcus Rashford in detail analysis one on that. So to keep tabs on that, I'll let you guys know when it's coming out. But you can catch me on Twitter, catch me on TikTok, on Instagram, and of course the Absolute Football Podcast. We're everywhere. Twitter, the TikTok account as well. So we'll be dropping promos as well on TikTok. So keep an eye out for Charlotte's episode on Thursday. But for now, thanks everybody for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.